everyone, and we'll get started. And just a small apology for the delay, but we're here, we're ready to roll. We have some really great panelists, people with a lot of experience in the tech industry. They're excited to be here. They've taken time out of their day specifically because they believe in talking to classrooms and students about what opportunities are there, after you get out of high school area. So with that said, I've got a series of questions and I'm going to kind of start now just to get things moving. I will name a person and ask them the question, but all three, so Christy, Scott, and Carlos, I'm going to start with this first question. I'll start with Christy. Just if you could introduce yourself, your company, kind of a brief description of what you do day to day. And, I think that the key point I want to talk about all day is what brings you joy in your job. So I'll start with Christy first.
Yeah, John, this would be my ask. Do you guys want to get some visuals now while we jump in, or
are you comfortable sharing? Can you share?
I am. Right. Yeah. So just to make things interesting, right? Right. I want to, you got to make me a presenter. But I will say my name is Christy Ennis-Clute. I'm representing Argenta Park. And we are a small company in Kalamazoo. I am their managing director, experience design. So you will see, I still can't share yet. But again, we're a small group in Kalamazoo. I've been there only a couple months. I used to be in a much larger firm. But the thing is I really enjoy working with this team in a smaller company for a lot of reasons that I thought we can dive into as we start talking about the role and what it allows us to do. But just to put it, we're very hands-on. And John, maybe I'll let everybody talk a little bit more, and I can come back to talking a bit deeper. But I came from a background of physical product design, and I'm now in the digital product design space with the UX side. So, but what's funny is my career has led me full circle back around to the physical design space in a small studio. So, let me share actually really quick. I'll share with you guys because it just makes it interesting so you guys can see some stuff, right? So when I say a small studio, what I mean is this sort of workspace, right? We're very hands-on. You'll see a lot of people presenting in this, but this came from in this studio space in the Edison neighborhood of Kalamazoo, but it came from the start of someone that actually was Michigan, left and came back, bought a farm. And in this farm, they've planted the space in hopes to kind of make the studio the space there on that farm. But you think about what we are in Michigan. This is a space that kind of creates that creativity. We get to have all these different expressions of what we do. And when I think about just the opportunities we have here in Michigan, it just tells you it pulled them back, that this is where they wanted to start their business in Kalamazoo. So again, we're very much tinkerers, hands-on the product space. We like to mock up all these sorts of concepts, but we're a very distributed team. When I say mock up too, we like to experience them in 3D if we can too. So if we want to see what it could be as potential, we'll create a 3D rendering and be able to pivot that and turn that around. So we work in all sorts of spaces, but the thing is, when I say a distributed team, we actually do have our team. Some of them were Michigan people that have left and are living in other places, but we're totally still all working together here out of Michigan, keeping that core. But also we've brought people in from Seattle. We're not fixed as a one-place company right now, but it really creates a distributed team of all sorts of different types of disciplines that it takes to pull off these very, I'm going to go really fast because I want to allow other people to talk about their roles, but we create everything from hardware to the digital that allows you to create for the spaces in between that make for a multimodal experience. If that gives you the breadth of all the spaces we do. It's engineering, but it's also very digital. So that's what I've got.
Oh, thanks, Christy. That is interesting. I've known you for quite a while in some of your other roles, but it's cool to see.
Yeah.
You're taking your design work and seeing the physical parts of applying that. So
Yeah.
I'm going to move on to our next panelist. Scott, let's go with you next. Again, same question. Talk about you, your company, and maybe what you really enjoy about the work you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it, John. So yeah, my name is Scott Pierce. I'm a West Michigan boy, born and raised. I lived down in Kalamazoo as a Christie for a while, Western Michigan University Bronco. So I got into technology about 2005, so 17-ish years ago, out of Western. Was trying to figure out what's next, and got an opportunity to work for a company called High Tech, a small family-owned organization out by the Grand Rapids Airport. Started with them as employee 6 or 7. They sent me out to technology and IT boot camp out in California for a couple of weeks to learn about servers and switches and cybersecurity and firewalls and backup disaster recovery, and just kind of learn everything about the tech space and how it affects businesses and school districts and governments and nonprofit organizations. So came back to West Michigan and just really started working with different companies and organizations and their IT leaders, and talking about strategy and vision and road mapping and how technology affects their organization and affects their business. So I've been with Applied Imaging now for about a year. So Applied Imaging is a 35-year-old company based here again in Grand Rapids, that's grown substantially. So we're up to over 500 employees. We have 13 office locations through Michigan, Northern Indiana, Northern Ohio, and actually one down in Tampa Bay, Florida. So a traditional copier printer company that got into IT and cybersecurity about 8.5 years ago. So the division I'm on, the Applied Technologies team, we help all organizations and businesses with their their cybersecurity when they're looking to move to the cloud for everything for their email, backup disaster recovery planning, and when they're looking at different software applications and just making sure that their technology works. So server switches, SAN, LAN, WAN, all the acronyms you can think of, VPNs and encryption and everything else for their network. So we really serve a lot of these customers as their full-time IT partner. So again, monitoring their network, making sure that the bad guys are staying out, and if they do get into the network, how do we help them recover quickly from that? I love being in the tech sector. I joke, it's you blink and you're 2 versions behind. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, where it's really exciting because it's ever changing, and we always got to stay on our toes and know what's going on out there. But it's fun and challenging to be able to work with really good clients and customers and helping them educate everything that's going out there in the tech space, and just being a trusted partner advisor for them as they kind of look at their, again, cybersecurity hygiene. Do we go from off or on-premise servers and storage to go into a cloud? And do we look at Google? Do we look at Amazon? Do we look at Microsoft? And what's the best fit? And just kind of helping them navigate what's going on out there, making the best decisions and helping their organization grow and evolve, and try to understand what's going to be going on differently than it is today in the next 6 to 12 months. So.
All right. Thanks, Scott. What's really interesting is, you're fully immersed into the tech industry, but are you a software developer?
No.
In that, I think that there's a takeaway for a lot of the students that are on this call, is that tech is such, like, there's so many different ways to get in, and in the same time, there's like, I can't think of one company, any industry or any job that there's not an element of IT embedded in it. So a lot of opportunities, no matter how you decide to go in. So I'm going to jump to Carlos, and you have the same questions. Carlos, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Carlos Velasquez. I'm the technical product owner for Meijer. Meijer is a super company with like supermarkets and super centers all over the Midwest. We have, as of our last census, 259 locations, but we keep on opening like 3 or 4 locations like every 2-3 months. My role as a product owner involves a lot of just being a liaison between the business needs and what our technical teams can produce. So we meet with architects, we establish what the requirements are and see what the viability of a particular solution can be. I started in IT. I think one of my biggest projects was as a developer and the Y2K conversion. So a long time ago. But as John mentioned, you started as a developer, started as an analyst developer, trying to figure out solutions for people that will come in with a particular issue. Evolved to more of a senior developer, a manager, and I've been in different industries. Back home in Peru, I was in telecommunications and government, and when I moved to the US, I was in marketing. I was in the big 3 as well. I was working for Ford for a while. Micro markets, education, and now in e-commerce. What produces joy is to find solutions, and it really getting all those bright minds together and trying to find a solution is very exciting. It's trying to come up with the best solution for our customers and provide that value, and having that customer be able to utilize what we came up as an idea is very gratifying.
All right, thanks, Carlos. And a reminder to all the students, you can put your questions into chat. And my colleague Carrie is going to be collecting those questions you have for our panelists. Christy, I'm going to kind of blend a couple of questions together for you. So where you're at now, UX UI design, think back, what type of, from an educational standpoint, how did you get there? What did you have to learn? Was it a college degrees or certificates, kind of a combination? Could you kind of describe the skill sets you need to do your job and how you learned them, and maybe give some advice to the students about if they're thinking about, hey, should I go to college, community college, certificate route?
Yeah, and I think about our whole panel here, like you said, John, this is such a perfect breadth of like where you could go and all these opportunities here in tech. When I came in and started in school, I think I couldn't decide if I wanted to go down a graphic design path or a engineering is what I was very highly encouraged to go down. And so, staying away from the arts, but I knew my passion was somewhere in the middle, but there was no description for it out there. And I keep thinking as the market keeps evolving, whatever you pick now, it's still going to be evolving, right? Like the opportunities are going to be different by the time you're out of even, from high school to college. So, because that was certainly my experience. And it's certainly what I keep seeing is like, even what's being taught in school is not, it's hard to keep up with what is really happening in the real world. So most of it has to happen on the job. I mean, so the more, when I think about having to choose between those 2 careers, I went to Western for engineering, and product design is kind of where I started. So physical product design. But I did a study abroad, and that's where I got the exposure to in Europe, they were developing these programs farther ahead than they were here. So that's what gave me the opportunities to see what was possible. But coming back to the US, I mean, I just found the spaces, but I also would say it was all in the internships and the practical hands-on that I really felt like I saw some of those opportunities. And funny being, even one of my little jobs on campus that gave me more exposure to the breadth of tech, I worked in a multimedia studio on Western's campus, and that gave me more exposure than most things just by getting in and starting to do the making digitally. So I would say any opportunity people can get, because when I have hired in the past, I also look for other people with career paths of either just practical experience, showing that they can jump in and make it, and that entrepreneurial side of showing they have an aptitude to go get it is one that I look for, as well as yes, but programs that can teach the basics, unless there's a big core to that too, so I like a breadth of everybody because it takes the whole team. So I would say there is no one right path, but it's all about how somebody well rounds themselves and shapes out their stretch of what kind of talent they can have. So
great.
Yeah.
So my two takeaways that I wrote down is number one, the idea of internships, and they come in different forms, but
Yeah.
it's never, I see internships for high school students, for freshmen, they exist. And
Yeah.
so look for those, that's on the job skills, but also like Christy mentioned, needs go get it.
Go get
If
it.
you can get a degree and go get it, you're going to be successful. I mean,
Yeah.
you can, there's a lot of different ways to go get it, but you just need to
Yep.
go get it.
Yep.
And that will build up your portfolio and your resume,
Yes.
as you go, but you're never, whether you're 17, 18, 16, 17, or 18, you can go get it now. You can start learning
Yeah.
and putting together stuff. So that's really cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Christy.
Yep.
Scott, same question for you.
Yeah, that's a great question, right? Going into college, I did a lot of, even in my senior year of high school, I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do, when I grow up type of thing, or what career path I wanted to go down. I had some ideas, but I really enjoyed, we had a pretty good at Jenison High School, we had a pretty good program where we could do some shadowing. So getting into different organizations, from manufacturing to healthcare to technology or whatever, and just do like a half a day or a day of job shadowing, and kind of walking around and being in the shoes of these different organizations and the different people within different organizations. So whether it be a CFO or VP of engineering, or anybody within those organizations, or an HR director. So you're just learning about how different organizations, how different companies, how different teams work together, and how people fill in, wear different multiple hats, whether they're a smaller organization or a larger organization. But that was always really super intriguing to me, is learning about organizations and businesses, not only what they do, what are the products they sell, or what are the solutions and services they offer, but really how they all mesh together, and how the people wearing these different hats work together within an organization, and help help them grow, help that organization grow, because that's and within anything in life, it's you kind of you evolve or die, right? So you kind of continue to see what challenges are out there, how do you grow as an organization, how do you increase revenue, how do you increase locations and employee, but most importantly, I think is, especially this day and age, is retention of your talent. How do you entice and keep the right people on your team? How do you have find a really good culture, and you're spending 40, 50 hours of your week with these people you work with, so they become your family. And so it's super important to understand and work with these organizations and people, and the culture that you can really, as Christy says, you go get it. You get excited each day to get up in the morning, and you really enjoy what you're doing. And I think at the end of the day, that's super important. I've learned over the years is if you can't be really excited and passionate about what you're doing and what the organization you're working for or working towards, then it's don't life's too short to just it's just kind of keep going through the motions. You need to find some place where you're valued, where you're respected, and that you're excited about what you're doing, and don't have your short-term vision goals on, but understand that hey, what do I want to be doing? What is the role I want to be doing? If you're finding you're surrounding yourself with the right people and the right culture and right mentors around you, then there's a lot of different places where you can go. But I think again, the value of that is checking things out, dipping your toe in the water. You have that go get it mentality of saying, hey, there's so much out there. How do I know what's going to be the best fit for me? And you don't know until you start asking the right questions and getting in front of as many people as possible, and just having those conversations. So don't be afraid to ask questions, and stick your neck out there sometimes. So.
All right. Thanks, Scott. And speaking of asking questions, I see there's some coming in the chat. We'll jump on these in just a bit, but I'll end up with Carlos with that same question about, from an education, training, skill gathering, certificate, skill, what's it take to get to where you're at now?
It's interesting because the role that I'm in did not exist when I was in school. So I think I learned the foundations of programming via C and Pascal, which are not used anymore. But the thing that it gave me is to give me the foundation of how programming languages work and how I can utilize that knowledge for other things that might come my way. I love the conversations that we're having right now with Christy and Scott coming in with similar ideas that I have of like the people that come to you to work. I've worked with people that had master's degrees and people that had boot camp or self-taught, and the people that I love working with, I have that grit, that drive, that want to make them like learn, even if it's like, hey, this is complex. They still try to learn themselves. They still try to not that be an obstacle and move into that role and try to understand how it is to succeed in that particular role. So having a degree definitely helps. It helps you with your career, but it is a lot of the foundational work. And like Scott mentioned, go and look for places that you feel like you fit in, that you fill in with that mission of that particular company, that you feel that when you wake up in the morning, you're excited about going to work, that your ideas are appreciated. And that's what makes you like grow like exponentially on a particular role. And don't be afraid. Same thing as Scott said, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to say like, hey, I don't know this. It's okay. I feel that the industry has moved a lot from the to more of a, hey, let's go together. Let's share this experience together. Let's see seniors will help the juniors. You move up. And some of the best places that I work with had that mentality and had that growth mentality. So you'll just fit right in and look for not just the non-traditional options in IT, and see what fits you and what makes you excited about working every day.
Thanks. Thank you, Carlos. Before we get into the questions, I do have one more like standard question. I have to get this asked. I think this will like round out everything we've talked about. And, I'm gonna start with Christy. We'll just go around the room again. Christy, when it comes to like we talked about technical skills and learning the technical part of jobs. We've used the term soft skills a lot in the past within my industry, within my job, and power skills. I've heard them called that. But what are, besides the technical skills to get your job done, what are some of these soft skills that you think have that are important to being successful into not only your job, but in the broader IT field? And you could feel free to describe like soft skills as you see.
Yeah.
As you feel comfortable.
Well, and I mean, it's interesting because particularly in my role, because we try to sit and have a really empathetic view of the people we're designing for. There's an inherent space, or a lot of people come with a lot of those soft skills. When I think about, listening and others, but I tie it back to like, to be really successful in that space. I think about two parts. It's like communication, a lot of things tied to communication. And I don't know if others would call this a soft skill, but I mean, it is about your listening. It is about your writing, how well you can articulate your ideas. Because if you want to get somewhere, you have to be able to articulate it in a way that can be heard. So you have to be thinking and listening to how other people are going to respond to your ideas. And when I guess I keep talking about all the entrepreneurial side of like, you got to get really good at pitching your ideas if you want to get somewhere with it. So that communication side, I don't mean for everybody to become part of politics, but in some way there's some deep skills right there of how you can get some ideas across. So, yeah.
All right. So you mentioned this idea of pitching, which is kind of interesting, whether you're pitching yourself for your first job,
yes,
or learning to pitch an idea. And that's just really nothing to be like, you're not selling out by pitching yourself. You're really learning to stand up for your ideas, and it's a skill that can be learned. So that's kind of cool. Hey, Scott, how about you from soft skill? I know you have to communicate cross-departmentally with vendors and also with your clients. But what do you see as some of these essential soft skills, and how did you learn them?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, soft skills and communication was I guess came a little bit more natural to me in terms of I've always been an extrovert. I mean, I talk to strangers when I'm, like today I'm at a coffee shop or wherever I'm at. I've been that way since I've been, in second grade. I guess I didn't really do a very good job of learning stranger danger. I was just like, hey, I'm Scott, how are you? So, it just, for me, I really enjoy helping people at the end of the day. So, right. So when you talk about soft skills, it's really, sometimes people aren't great at that, but you learn and you kind of get out of your comfort zone. And, at the end of the day, right, we're all people, we're all human. So I think we all have human instincts that we want to help other people with whatever's going on in their day to day. And it's whether it be a smile or, you're kind of the pay it forward, buying somebody a coffee at the coffee shop, being able to communicate with other people. And, especially how technology has changed so much in us, where I got to catch myself too, where, I'm on my phone, too much, or if my kids are on their phone too much. And it's like, we're in a digital age, right, where it's easy to send texts and send, do things like that. But we need to continue to say, hey, we're surrounded by other people. Put technology down sometimes. Let's have a conversation. We're sitting across from each other. And I think, that'd be just one of the things that I've seen over, the past 10, 15, 20 years of, the generational change of, having that cell phone and having that iPad and having those things in our place. And we're like, all right, sometimes even as adults and teenagers and going into college students, we need to kind of put that technology down and really have and get in these conversations with people and get elbow to elbow with them and say, hey, well, what's going on with your day and how is things going on and how can I help you or what are you struggling with? But again, communication is so critical. And just being able to really be around and be empathetic and helping understand people that are going through different things. They're trying to get a job, but they have a life at home, right? They have other stuff that's going on in their families and things like that. So if you're able to kind of sometimes peel back that layer, and it doesn't always have to be, about business, but taking a couple minutes of saying, all right, well, hey, how was your weekend? How are things going? And, the small talk type stuff, you just learn a lot about other people and what they're going through. And then that helps you kind of understand how you can better help them with their issues, their problems, their designing of different solutions and just you connect on people on more of a human level. That's, I think, is very, very important. So.
Very good. And Carlos, I'm going to ask you, but at the same time, Christy, Scott, and Carlos, feel free into the chat. If you see a question you want to just that, you can just write in the chat, but I'll get to some. We have about 15 minutes left. So Carlos, why don't you do the soft skills? Then I'll get into some of the chat questions.
Sure. I'll definitely agree with the rest of the panelists. Empathy is very important, especially as you work with a team and you see that some team member might not have the best day that day. To try to understand what they're going through, try to see how you can help them. The collaboration, humbleness goes a long way. Doesn't matter how much try to be humble, try to help others as much as you can do. And then knowing yourself. I mean, Scott mentioned he's an extrovert. I'm an introvert. For me, presenting in front of 500 people was overwhelming. It was a lot of so knowing myself, how to prepare, how to be prepared for that meeting and how to do it goes a long way. So try to know yourself, know what your limits are, but try to break them. Like I was saying, push yourself a little bit. You see your own growth by just doing that, pushing your limits a little bit and see what you get out of it.
Okay. Now we're going to do a jump ball. So whoever, if it's Carlos, Scott, or Christy who wants to tackle this, but we've had a couple of things about salary, so I would say a range, maybe from anybody wants to talk about an entry level position in your industry to more of a mid and senior level. Feel free to share what you can. And then any big projects you want to work on, exciting big projects. So anybody want to tackle that one?
I'll throw out salary. I can come back to the big projects because I actually have one slide I could show you too, one of my favorites. But the salary wise, I would say what I've seen in this might be similar to some developer roles. I'd be curious to see if you guys would agree, but I've seen for the UX side or designer side, it goes in the lows, or the higher 60s to 70s. I'm watching the whole market start to shift that direction. It keeps going up right now. It's very, very competitive in design right now. But it is in that more so in the 70s, 70K a year to when you start moving up in that seniority, I feel like, man, especially on that design side, there is a high demand for design management right now. So as people go through over the years, looking for that leadership and guidance, it's if you wanted to work out west or for a larger company, it can go almost close to 200K a year. But right now it's like in the high 100 something, 180, 100 something. It's pretty insane out there right now what people are finding as opportunities. So you'll see a lot of people moving around right now in the industry looking for that. So yeah.
Scott, do you have any range in, cybersecurity or in your consulting?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, range for different roles within IT support. I mean, I've talked to a lot of students over the past couple of years that want to again focus a lot on cybersecurity, and I tell them, I'm like, it's difficult to kind of jump into an entry level cybersecurity role, but if you get into a help desk level or a project management level role, and as long as you let your team and people know around you that you have a strong focus on cybersecurity, I think that's the most important piece. It's hard to again jump in from zero experience and to a dedicated cybersecurity liaison. But if you're able to get in there and really show your value and show your worth of, hey, I'm plowing through a bunch of support tickets, or I've really helped out on some neat projects, and then elevate your skill set of saying, yeah, I really like focusing on SIM and SOC and other cybersecurity focused areas. But yeah, I'd say don't be deterred by that. That you need to kind of sometimes roll up your sleeves and start learning through some experience of different roles. But as long as you let your team and your people around you and your manager and your mentors know, yeah, I mean, ideally in the next year or two, I'd like to be at a more of a focus on the cybersecurity front. But yeah, salary ranging anywhere from probably for entry level roles 50 to 75K, and just depending on again the actual specific role and what organization you'd be working for, and again if it's remote versus hybrid versus fully on premise. So
All right. Hey, Carlos, what's your take on that?
Similar, like entry will be 60 to 75, and with the pandemic the world has opened, so remote work, you can work West Coast, East Coast, whatever. So it have added a lot of pluses for the people looking for a job. But then at the beginning, it might be tough because few companies go in and say, hey, let me invest in this person. I think this person can get there. But so try to get that entry position, even if it's an internship, if it doesn't pay the salary that you expect, get that knowledge. 1 year under your belt, it goes a long way when you want to look for that next position. So if you like a company, you want to work for them, try to get your foot in the door, basically, and then get your expertise and get yourself known in the company, and then it will be a lot easier to jump from that entry position to that team that you want to be part of once you get to be known by your colleagues or whatnot. So it's kind of like just a progression thing that for that initial job.
I think before we get into the big projects, the tricky part, I know this is a question, and Scott's probably worked with these high school, hears this a lot. What the path? I mean, you're coming out of high school and you have the world is your oyster. You can go into a lot of different directions. There's community colleges, 4-year schools, certificate programs, do it yourself, just learn through the job. I mean, kind of like, this is a loaded question, but what would you say to somebody coming out of high school that wants to work in IT? What would be like an ideal path, or maybe like a good path? What are some options?
I want to throw this out here because I think a big important thing that I've seen people take away from like college and university when we're talking about fundamentals, I mean, there is like, yes, some things that help you be able to speak to work from a more authoritative space because you know the history and the story behind it. But also I think about like working within institutions, it's a whole different setting than working with startups, right? And if you know how to work within big, like I think of universities as those big companies, you learn skills to how to navigate big complexity versus getting scrappy and running at stuff. You know, there's a balance there that takes a maturity. And even if you're only 2 years out of school, I mean, I think you learn a lot there to start to learn how to navigate that. So that's my take.
Scott?
Yeah, again, the path we all take is there's gonna be lots of forks in the road. Again, when I went to Western, my degree was in broadcast cable production, psychology, and sociology. Right. And somehow after college, I got licensed in real estate and insurance and did that for about 6-8 months. And then I literally, got a phone call out of the blue from a technology company. And who knows, I just was like, yeah, it sounded really interesting. I knew how to use, office applications and use my laptop, but I wanted to learn more. I was intrigued. I knew technology was, going to be coming, just so more and more ingrained in every type of business. So I jumped in with both feet and said, all right, let's give it a shot, and have been, doing it 17, 18 years now and love it, and get excited about it every day. So the path, the path we're all on, we don't know what's, how it can change. I think the best advice is just keep your eyes wide open. Try different things, different scenarios, challenge yourself. Have conversations with other people, what they've liked, what they've gone through, learn from others of what worked, what didn't work, and just, again, be open to other things. And again, sometimes it's going to take a little bit of grit and you kind of rolling up your sleeves of getting into and researching what other jobs are out there, what are other things that really get you excited and passionate about, that you may have to do on your own time, right? You're gonna be working 40, 50 hours a week, but you have to do stuff on your own time after hours that to really help you understand what's next. And don't just become complacent with, hey, this is the status quo, this is what I'm going to do for the next 30 years of my life, where you continue to challenge yourself, continue to get excited about it, and continue to learn. So
All right, thank you. And Carlos?
I agree with Christy. Like, some of the best experiences that I had learning was in startups, because one time I was a developer, and then somebody stood up in top of the servers. They did, true story, and they stopped working. And then they came up to me and they say, "Do you know anything about servers?" And I'm like, "No, but let me find out." So I start researching about it. So start figuring out how the server works. So you learn a lot of stuff, but you wear a lot of hats too. So is that balance of how much you learn, how, and then how you can do that work-life balance early on. It might be a little chaotic, but one of the best advices that I had from mentors was, if you like something, dig in a little bit and see if you keep on liking it, dig deeper. If not, move to the next one, because there's a lot of knowledge out there and it gets overwhelming. It's like, oh, I need to know this, I need to know that. No, you make your own path. Kind of like what Scott said, you make your own path and try to have fun with it. Try to figure out what you like and keep on doing that. Make that your job, basically.
I got to build on that, Carlos, because I love that we call it the broken comb sort of idea. So you think everybody has some teeth and some depth in different areas, but to me, that makes the person more useful to our business, because I'm like, if something doesn't work, again, we can apply you in all these other spaces because you have so many more skills to use, so that you're not just stuck and you find yourself in a dead end because you've got so many more skills to apply. So, yeah.
Exactly.
We got 5 minutes left. I think for any question that came in on the chat or on the Q&A, we have copies of this, and I can follow up with email with everybody, all the schools. But the last thing, why don't you talk about that big project? I kind of like that idea, because that brings everything together. Hey, this is what I do. So Christy, you mentioned you have a slide you could share. Then I go Scott, Carlos with, hey, what's a big project? And maybe that would help students think about what could be done.
Okay. Let's see.
I think you're still should be able to share.
Yeah. Can you guys see this then? Yeah. This Can you see this here then?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, this actually early on in my career. So for me, I mean, it's just bewilders me that this is probably 10, 12 years old at least. And when I was working on it, but there is a brand new Corvette cluster coming out pretty soon here. So I believe so, or if it's not already out. But it to think that back 10, 12 years ago, I was designing for something that had to withstand the future. And the excuse to, play video games, get to go test drive some of this stuff just so I could like design for it. It was the best, the most fun product to work on. But it just, again, it happened. We designed for 10 years in the future. It withstood the time, and now they're finally touching it up. But I also love that I don't think it's terribly outside of where we're at, but it was some of the first digital displays that actually got put in. And I'm like, I had to work on this in a locked room, in another locked room, don't talk to anybody for years. Like, this is the kind of work that I enjoy though, because it's so big, so impactful to see where it goes. So yeah, it's the one that kicked off my career, and it's one I really enjoyed. Put it that way.
Beautiful. Beautiful. It's a work of art.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, well, Scott, what, is there like something like wowed you, even like looking back on, like Chrissy says, oh my God, I did that.
A lot of so over the past 6-7 years, I've put a lot of my focus and energy on cybersecurity, and some of my fun, I guess projects or whatever you want to call them, is I spend a lot of time on doing cybersecurity assessments. So essentially, it's kind of going in and either secretly trying to get access to a network or somebody's data, or get them to click on a wrong email link, or do whatever I can to kind of help educate the client about, hey, there's your cybersecurity might not be as robust as you think it is. So we've done some engagements I've done where it's like, I'll go into a client that they don't know, and I'll have on a Comcast or an AT&T shirt or a Cisco network shirt, and I'll be like, hey, I know Bill, your IT manager, he needs me to go back into the tech closet and change out a router or something along those lines, or we'll leave a little USB in the lobby, and just see who picks it up and plugs in the network. And so just some of the kind of cat and mouse games to be able to see how we can get access to the network, or get their information and kind of capture the flag. So those are fun. And at the end of the day, it's again, the client's paying us for these engagements to see if we can really get into their network and how robust their network is, and doing different penetration testing and things like that. So those have been fun, and it's always just a different way to again help educate the client. At the end of the day, 85% of the time it's people clicking on an email link that allows these threat actors and the cyber terrorists out there to get in. But doing some of the other ways around it, those are kind of fun to be able to do that. But at the end of the day, it's helping educate them about there's ways out there, there's bad people, bad folks out there that are doing things to get on your network and hold your data for ransom. So just to be always mindful and watchful and make sure that you're doing the best things for it. So
Carlos.
I've worked on a lot of projects, but one of the ones that brings me a lot of joy just recently, we enable our SNAP assistance program as a payment for e-commerce in the digital arena. So for those who don't know, the SNAP provides benefits and supplement of food budget for a needy family. So it can be people that are sick, or people are, they have monetary problems. So one of the objectives was to make the same experience for any kind of credit card or debit card to be the same for EBT. So that's what we accomplished. It was a very, very long project. We had a lot of government checks and balances and whatnot, but the satisfaction came when one of our customers sent a review saying that she or he had immunocompromised, so they couldn't go to the stores. So being able to order the groceries and have it delivered to their home, and ability of doing that. This is like, whoever worked on these are heroes in my book. And I grabbed that, sent it to my team, and that was just the joy from all of them that we made a difference to our customers. And that's that's the one that I always remember just pretty recently. But it was a lot of fun. But at the end we came up with that kind of like that price.
Very cool. Yeah. All right. We're at the end of our time, everyone. And I'd like to thank our panelists, Carlos, Scott, and Christy. You can find them on LinkedIn. I know for a fact they're very active, and you're never too young to have a LinkedIn account. So if that's something you should talk, you try to put something together, but they'd be nice connections for everyone. And as I mentioned, all the questions that came up, we'll make sure we follow up in writing with them. But again, a big thank you to Carlos, Scott, and Christy for your time today. And to guess, my word is like, IT is where it's at. I mean, I don't care if whatever job you see yourself into, whether legal or medicine or working in manufacturing, there's going to be an element of IT. And the more you can become comfortable with exploring options and using your personalities, the better off. So that said, thanks everyone. We'll sign off now, and good luck.